Hey there! I'm author Sarah A. Chrisman.
And I'm Gabriel Chrisman.
And today we're going to be discussing my book, A Trip and a Tumble, one of the tales of Chetzemoka. So A Trip and a Tumble is the first book where we actually get to go a little bit outside the town of Chetzemoka itself. Because this is the book where Ken and Felix and Jacob take a trip up to Canada, to Victoria, BC. And they get to visit a circus performance that actually happened. So when I was researching this book and trying to work out what was going to go on, I looked up newspapers from Victoria at the time this book is happening, and there was a rather lengthy article about a stop Robinson Circus was making to the city of Victoria. And it listed the ships that the circus was taking. And then because it had listed the names of the ships, I was able to then go into the maritime references I'd also been reading and find photos of the actual ships and find, the whole history of the ships themselves, which gave me far more information than I needed for the book.
A treasure trove of real detail.
Right, a treasure trove of real detail. And the article about the circus visit also talked about, it listed all the different animals Robinson Circus was bringing to Victoria.
All the different types of performers.
Right,
yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so it was just this, as Gabriel said, a treasure trove of real information about what was going on. And so, of course,
at that point, it's too good not to use that.
At that point, it was too good not to use that. And then the character of Teresa in this book, who is this wealthy socialite, who is just this joie de vivre type, very, very, very enthusiastic. Mm-hmm. She was inspired basically by two sources. There was a travelogue I was reading about someone who had visited Victoria at that time and had seen this beautiful woman dressed to the nines stepping into a phaeton. So this is the 19th century equivalent of like a sports car. Like, what's the most expensive sports car? Lamborghini?
Probably a Bugatti.
A Bugatti, yes. So it's this very rich, very fashionable woman stepping into this beautiful phaeton. And the traveler's friend who's standing by him after this woman zips away looks at him and says, "Now how's that for an Indian?" And he's just flabbergasted that this wealthy socialite could be an Indian. And that was what a lot of Victoria society was at that point, because there were so many people who had native ancestors, just because of the history of the time and place. You get a lot of, if you go back to their parents and grandparents, you get a lot of French fur trappers marrying into a lot of the native peoples. And that's part of where Teresa's story comes from, because when I read about that fancy socialite stepping into the phaeton, I wanted to meet that gal. And for just learning more about what a woman of that echelon of society would have been like, I read Jenny Churchill's memoirs, because she was part Iroquois, actually. And so this is, Jenny Churchill is Winston Churchill's American mother.
And also a highly vivacious and interesting character.
Yes, panther-like was one of the phrases that got used to describe her, but she was very, very dashing, shall we say.
Yes.
As she was known for being just very a little bit scandalous, but that was part of her charm.
Yes, exactly.
And then you've got the circus characters. You've got Peter, who's... Now, when I was researching circuses, I found it really interesting, because I read a lot of circus books, both 19th century circus books and some books about modern circuses. And I was really fascinated by learning that a lot of circus performers, even though they have to be very they have to present an outgoing personality on the stage. In their private lives, a lot of them are really quite shy, and they don't like interacting with the public much.
Especially outside of that very insular circus culture, which
Right.
is very tight-knit, like
Right.
a family.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so this dichotomy of someone who was able to perform in a really showman-like way, but at his heart was really just a really shy, withdrawn guy,
Mm-hmm.
is where the character of Peter, who's the trick cyclist in the story, comes in. And of course, since he's a trick cyclist, he gets to meet our cycling friends,
Mm-hmm.
which is how he gets into this world that we've introduced by having the Chetzemoka folks go up north. And then Peter's friend Makomo, who is the beast tamer in the circus, is a composite character from a few different actual beast tamers who all went under the name Makomo.
Yes.
It was a very popular name for beast tamers in Victorian circuses because there had been one particularly famous Makomo who's, anytime you get into circus history, there's a lot of difficulty in knowing where truth ends and
Yes.
fabrication begins. But the basic story of the first Makomo is that he was an African from Africa, and he wound up in England, and he was a beast tamer in a circus, and a very, very successful one.
And probably set the pattern for what people expected from a beast tamer in a circus pretty much forever after.
Pretty much forever after. And so a lot of the later black beast tamers in the Victorian circuses took his name.
And sometimes his backstory and his persona
Right.
as well.
Right. Now, in this one, the Makomo in this story is fictitious, and his backstory is that he was an African American who had been born into slavery and then escaped. When he was quite young, he ran away and found a new life in the circus, which, running away to join the circus is a classic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But anyhow, this one probably has the most research in it of all of my tales of
And
Chetzemoka.
hence some of the longest appendices go through a lot of that research.
It has a lot of notes at the back.
Yes, highly recommended reading too.
Yeah, there is some stuff in here which is really fascinating. If you get into the backstories and the sources, you can get into some really fascinating history. But the story itself is a romp.
Absolutely.
And I hope you'll check it out. And I hope you'll tell your friends about it. So, thanks for watching and happy reading.